want to thank everybody who has participated in organizing our first live meeting back to school. For anybody who can't see, we have in the South Road gym the audience chair separated by 6 feet, and we've got plexiglass separating each board member. And we just really appreciate the time it took to make these alternate arrangements for us.
Thank you very much. I think we're ready to go, and the plan should be streaming now. So I'll echo my appreciation to folks who set this up and make this possible for us to start the meeting again in person. You're seeing here in this room a microcosm of what the classrooms will look like, where there's plenty of distance between chairs and classrooms, so that we achieve the appropriate social distance. And obviously, we have plexiglass barriers between board members. I feel comfortable removing my mask so that I can be better understood, and also knowing that we're taking all of the safety precautions that we should take into consideration. We presented to the board our preliminary work, sort of work in progress on last Thursday. We'll recap some of that work in this presentation for members of the audience who may not have followed the conversation from last Thursday. We'll catch you up. And then we have more work to do on protocols and instruction. We're going to update you on some of the progress that's been made since the last meeting with you. Obviously, we have to file plans with the state by this Friday. The plans that have to be filed with the state are not as detailed as the plans we're sharing with you. In many respects, we're required to give the state a list of assurances of things that we are committing to make sure that our plan incorporates. So we will make those assurances to the state. And then the plan itself will be something that is on our website, available to the public. It will be, as I said in the last meeting, a living document. We anticipate that we will work well, every day in August, continuing to refine our plans, and as we make those refinements, reflect them in the plan that's online, so the parents can keep up with the changes that are being made. And we also recognize that the state continues to make refinements to their guidance in school districts. We're continuing to get changes and updates from the state, from the CDC. So we want to be attentive and reflective of the changes that come from these bodies that are going to advise us. We did have the opportunity to meet earlier this week with the county executive and the health commissioner, along with a number of superintendents who are in leadership roles in the Superintendents Association in Merced County. We talked through a lot of the protocols for how we would work with the Department of Health going into the fall and through the course of this coming school year. And so there will be places where I'll weave in to these comments some of the reflection of that conversation that we had with the health commissioner and the county executive. So without too much further ado, let's take us through the plan. So as I mentioned, Governor Cuomo did make an announcement middle of July on how they are framing out the decision-making tree for whether schools and how schools will reopen in the fall. So clearly there will be instruction sometime. The question is whether that instruction is going to be virtual, in person, or some combination of the two. And the algorithm that they're going to use, the guideposts that they're going to use, are if the rate of virus transmission is low in a community, in a region, the state has been carved into regions, then that region will reopen. If the rate of transmission of virus, the number of new tests that are positive is under 5%, then the governor's intention is to reopen. If at any point the number, after we reopen, the number of positive tests goes up to as high as 9%, the governor has indicated that we will go all virtual again. And undoubtedly, these are frameworks to help us understand what the governor is thinking, but also to make it possible for us to follow along, because the state's data set is published online, and so we can see the trends for ourselves, and that helps us in our planning because we have a sense of what we're aiming at, because we're looking at the same data that the governor is looking at. But I think we all recognize that a lot is unknown about this disease and how it progresses, and that we're going to have to be nimble and agile just as we anticipate the state is going to make changes and refinements and iterations as they learn more, and there's more research comes back around this disease to help us to remain safe. We went through the timeline the last meeting. We won't spend much time rehashing the first part of that, but I'll focus instead on the dates that are in purple at the bottom. We have sent the survey to staff. One of the requirements that we have is to make sure that if there are staff that have underlying medical conditions that put them at higher risk, higher personal risk, then we have to begin the process of talking with them. So we initiated that process with our staff. Obviously, we want to be attentive to their health and safety and try to find ways to accommodate their needs. They're an important part of this organization and this family. We have put out a similar survey to parents regarding transportation. We are in the process of trying to resolve the transportation challenge that is presented by the need to social distance on buses. So that's a take time for anything but social distance. All right, screen fix and audio hopefully a little bit louder. So shortly we'll be sending out a survey to parents that will have essentially the same question that is being asked of staff members on their availability, their concerns about having students return to school in case there is some sort of health compromise that might put a student at higher risk. We want to be attentive and careful about our students' health and safety, so we want to begin that conversation with parents. And we also recognize that there are some parents for whom their children may not have necessarily an underlying health condition, but may nevertheless have reservations and concerns. And what we want to do is make sure that we provide those parents with an option as well. At the last meeting, I indicated to the board that it was still unclear whether parents were able to make a voluntary choice to keep their students out of school. The answer to that question is that they are, and so we're now working on the process of trying to identify with parents how many children that might be, so that we can start to do planning around how to accommodate. And then, as I mentioned earlier, on the 31st, we'll need to file a plans with the state. As we mentioned at the last meeting, the governor, his guidance has required us to prepare 3 plans, not just one. Plan to maximize all students in instruction that may be limited by the amount of facility space that we have. Plan for all virtual learning, not only what we did in the spring, although the plan will be similar from what we did in the spring. And a hybrid plan that recognizes that we may have some groups of students in person and some groups of students learning from home. And as I said earlier, we anticipate that there's going to be iteration in this process as we move forward. At the last meeting, we talked through the community input that we got from a parent survey. Since then, we've also done a thought exchange where parents have participated in staff. We've had over 1,600 participants, and they have rated over 100,000 times the rated thoughts that have been prepared by other people that were participating in the thought exchange. So, again, some high points. When we ask parents generally, would you send your child back to school? 73% of parents said yes, but that means that we have to be attentive to the remaining 27. Will you use busing? And obviously, we're now getting more regular with parents as we have to work on actually routing buses and figuring out how many students will be along each particular route. We ask parents if they have the capability of driving their child in case we're unable to find a way to accommodate busing for everyone. We want to know what to prepare for in terms of student school lunch, and we wanted to know if parents thought that there was a reason why their children might not be able to wear a mask. We also asked for some feedback on the different instructional models that were under consideration, just a reaction to a full in-person model and the reaction to remaining home and virtual. And then we had explored a couple of different approaches to doing a hybrid model. One that's a half-day hybrid, one that's an alternating day hybrid. And we got some feedback on those as well. Alternating days seem to be more popular than half day. Clearly, the feedback we got from the survey is that parents and our students love our teachers, and that comes as no surprise to me. And the amount of time that they get to interact with their teachers, either in live instruction or in small group work, parents found to be the most impactful. So about 55% of parents rated live teacher-led instruction as their number one first choice. But that means that 45% of parents didn't read it as their first choice and something else was their first choice. So that means that we know we have a number of students, a range of learners with a range of skills and learning styles, and we're going to have to make sure that we're able to accommodate all of them. So the pause is that I'm very loud in the gym, but I'm apparently very soft online. So we're trying to figure out how best to improve my audio online. Well, we'll wait and see if we get some text about how loud it is or isn't. And if this isn't adequate, then the next step will be to try headphone, Bluetooth headset, and see if that improves things. And we'll turn this microphone off, and we'll go from there. So, all right. So the thought exchange is a different way of collecting feedback. It asks people to share their thoughts, and then other people rate those thoughts and how consistent those thoughts are with their own thoughts and impressions. We had 800 people share thoughts, 1,600 people participated. Some people didn't offer thoughts, but just rated the thoughts of others. And in the end, we had faculty, staff, even a couple of students participate in this exchange. There were highly rated thoughts, and those thoughts are unsurprisingly all around safety. So safety around masks, safety around air filtration, and questions about the protocols that we'll do in the event that there is a positive case somewhere, how we'll keep students safe. I'm just going to pause and see if we have thumbs up or thumbs medium on my voice online. Is this good? Now we have prayer. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Looking at more of the thoughts and now theming the thoughts. Again, a lot of the thoughts are related to health and safety protocols, and we're going to be spending a lot of time in this meeting talking through health and safety protocols. One thing Thought Exchange does is it will identify through themes that there are groups that think alike about issues, and often those kind of form into side A and side B. In this case, side A is people who are uncomfortable with reopening school buildings for live instruction. Side B is people who are comfortable and anxious to reopen buildings for live instruction. And then what the tool does is the software finds out what is the overlap between these two sides, which appear at first glance to have opposite opinions, but the common ground that they have is that everyone is concerned about safety protocols, ways to mitigate the spread of the disease, and ways to make sure that schools are the safest place they can be within what's available to us. So at this point, I'm going to turn to Ms. Bogard, who's going to take us through a little bit of the instructional model that is planned in our in-person environment.
Okay, and I will try to speak loudly and slowly so it overcomes the echo that we understand is somewhat problematic this evening. So in-person instruction, we've done quite a bit of work in the last several weeks on determining social distancing, getting the guidance, and then walking with the architect, building by building, all 10 buildings, going classroom by classroom, and setting up classrooms with appropriate social distancing for our students. As we walked into South Grove this evening, we saw 2 demonstration classrooms that were set up with appropriate social distancing, desks spread wide apart. We'll have partitions on all of the desks. so students can have that safe space where they're sitting for instruction. So we worked also to identify the spaces. So we have class rosters that will have to be split between two spaces in order for all students to be served with good instruction as well as appropriate social distancing. So we're using all certified staff. We really looked at our staff very carefully. So in all of the spaces, there will be a certified staff member. We're going to use the co-pilot methodology that they'll be working together. There will be teaming that's happening. Every one of our spaces will be staffed by a certified staff member. We're putting lunch in classrooms. We're going to try to minimize student movement at K-8, so that they'll be staying more in one classroom. Teachers will be coming to them. To the extent practical, there will be times when students can take a break. There will be times when they will have recess and move, but we will limit those times and we'll do cleaning as whenever a class moves, masks go on, they move. When they come back, their desk will be wiped out. So let's start with our learning at elementary. So we are very pleased to be able to be at the point where we can say that all students, K-8, will be coming 5 days a week on site to school in their building. What will that look like in in-person elementary? So again, we just reviewed that each space in the building was reviewed, and many places will be repurposed. The classrooms will look different. We can advance to the next slide. The classrooms will be split between two physical spaces so that we can have that good instruction and students can learn in small groups. And we'll utilize that co-pilot methodology for classes to be split between the two physical areas. So we've done a lot of talking and planning and grappling with how the teachers will team, how that instruction will happen, and how we can best serve students in this small group environment. And we're kind of excited about it because it gives us an opportunity to be a little bit more up close and personal with our students. And we're excited to build relationships with them in that smaller environment. In elementary, lunch and most specials will take place in the classroom. Occasionally students will move, they will be monitored, and they will be moved safely with appropriate distancing and masks on. We will allow breaks and some opportunity for recess. We are writing the protocol for that, so that will be very structured and everyone will be safe in those times. There'll be less students on the playground at one time and the protocol will be followed at all of the elementary schools. So now as we go to the middle school, talked a lot about, again, could we get all students back 6 days into school 5 days a week? And we're very pleased to be able to do that. It is going to be very tight. And the other thing that we have to do in order to get all students on site 5 days a week is shift from a 9-period day to an 8-period schedule for students in the middle school. So if we go to in-person middle school, the next slide, it reviews that for us. That was our challenge to get all students back in. In order to do that, we needed more spaces and we had to just shift to that 8-period day in order to gain space and gain appropriate staff to teach that robust 8-period program. So there will be some electives that are postponed for students in the 2021-22 school year. However, all required courses will be taken, all sequence courses will be available, so that students, as we get back into brick and mortar, as we overcome this situation of COVID-19, will be able to continue with their middle school program. For middle school as well, we're going to do lunch in classrooms. We've been ordering extra carts so that can happen. And again, middle school students will be allowed breaks, as we talked about at the elementary. And we know that they will have some movement, it will be limited. Now, Syosset High School. So we really worked at it, but as you know, that is our biggest building. It has 4 grade levels. And we looked at the committee that we worked with, the task force. They vetted the half-day option. We vetted the full-day option. We really tried to make it work. But in the end, with the amount of students and the fact that the strength of our high school is that Syosset High School has something for everyone. I want to quote Dr. Durante. He's famous for saying that That is such a strength of our high school. There's such diversity in offerings for students, and students take individual courses. They plan their schedules on an individual basis. We want to continue to offer those rich pathways for our students, and in order to do that, we had to go then to an every other day situation where they will have their full schedule. They'll be in person with us on one day and then learning virtually with us on the next day. We are excited that we can see those high school students will be coming back. If we look at how it's going to look, there's 97 classrooms at the high school. 94% of those rooms are in use each of the 9 periods, which gives you a little bit of understanding why it was so difficult to be able to find the spaces to bring all the students back, even on that alternating basis. So as this shows you, all students would attend on an alternating day and a continuous 4-day cycle. We've done quite a bit of work in the task force vetting what instruction will look like when students are in class and how it will continue seamlessly when they are at home watching class instruction. It will be a different application than students experiencing virtual learning in the spring. It will be more robust and it will be from the classroom so that we can really follow the regular rigor of the high school program and offer that to all of our students.
Right. We'll talk a little bit about health and safety protocols. Obviously, physical safety is at the heart of everything. If we don't have physical safety, all else can't proceed. And as I mentioned before, there's no way to eliminate risk altogether. And that was emphasized. I was on a call for superintendents with Owens Children's Hospital of Northwell this afternoon, and our conversation with the commissioner about on Monday, but there are so many things that we can do to reduce and mitigate risk. And our job, our mission is to do our very best work to mitigate that as much as possible, and to also know exactly how we're going to act and what we're going to do. Just as we drill, in case there's a fire alarm, we're going to need to be clear on what our protocols are going to be when health and safety issues arise. So first, in classrooms, we're going to try and maximize the safety of classrooms for obvious reasons, for students and for staff. That means that students and staff are going to be required to wear masks. During the state guidance says that it is permissible to take masks off during instruction, but in our conversation with the folks at Northwell today, the conversation earlier this week with the health commissioner, the one thing that is clear is that masks are very effective. And so we believe that we should use masks as much as possible. We recognize that students will need mask breaks, but we're not picturing those mask breaks being the duration of a class. Rather, we anticipate it being a short period of time during the class and then replacing the mask. Because that is the safest way to go. It is the most robust protection. It prevents not just droplets that are in the air, but even aerosols are reduced by mask use. So it is the foundation of the safety protocols, and it's the one that we've got to be most attentive to. The second strongest factor that we can put into place is to maintain social distance of at least 6 feet. And that has also been, the research right now seems to suggest that that is also a very robust measure that can be taken. The third is the partitions, and you see an example of partitions here. The idea being that there's a partition that surrounds 3 sides of the student's desk, and so if a student happens to sneeze or cough during a mask break, then anything that is expelled from their mouth during that is still contained within the enclosure of this. It's not plexiglass, it is a polycarbonate enclosure, but we'll just call it a plastic sheet. So our goal is to try and have, at all times, if at all possible, pardon me. Is this better? looking at the IT people in the back of the room. IT person, is this better? Okay, I will continue to try to talk a little more assertively. So with each of these three things in place, we're going to try and use 2 out of the 3 as much as possible. So during mask breaks and eating, we will rely on plastic and the social distance to be our safety measures. But if we can have all 3 things operating simultaneously, obviously that's the safest of all. So I believe Dr. Rufo is going to talk a little bit about building cleaning and disinfecting protocols. I believe she's joined us via live stream. If I don't hear Dr. Rufo's voice.
Can you see? Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about building cleaning and disinfecting protocols. Our facilities department has developed several cleaning and disinfecting protocols for our buildings. Using different protocols at various intervals helps to ensure that our buildings are well cleaned and disinfected and our students and our staff remain safe. These protocols include daily cleaning during the day, evening cleaning, and disinfecting, and bi-weekly cleaning and disinfecting. So during the day, while school is in session, our custodial workers will clean and disinfect the high touch points and surfaces, things like doorknobs, light fixtures, push bars on doors, and stairwell handrails, and obviously nurses' offices and bathrooms. Additionally, they will be assisted at certain times in the day by our classroom monitors. They'll assist custodians by helping gather food after meal times and performing periodic cleaning of the classroom furniture. In the evenings, the custodial staff will clean and disinfect each classroom, bathroom, nurse's office, all of the main offices, gyms, multipurpose rooms, and again, the high touch point with the district's disinfectant products. And then bi-weekly, the custodial staff will clean, disinfect, and apply an antimicrobial product that provides protection to surfaces for up to 90 days. The cleaning products that are used by the custodial staff, they meet New York State green cleaning standards, and the disinfectants are all EPA approved to be effective against viruses that are similar to COVID-19. The image there shows the cleaning tools. The custodial team uses, or at least one of the tools that we use, they use the electrostatic sprayers, and this enables them to efficiently disinfect large areas, and the sprayers also help the droplets to cling more effectively to the surface to provide better disinfectant coverage. And we're using those currently. We've been looking very closely at all of our buildings' air filtration and ventilation systems. Our architects and engineers are going through each room in every building to evaluate room ventilation. We anticipate they'll complete their work and provide their recommendations, hopefully by the end of this week. So part of that work, which you're looking at on the screen, it was looking at air filters that we have in our building in our current HVA systems with the goal of upgrading the filters wherever we could. Here in this chart, you can see on the left, those are some of our HVAC units and the present MERV filters that are used, and then the upgrades that we planned for September installation. Now, MERV stands for Minimum Efficiency Reporting Value, and that really means these ratings are a scale of 1 to 16, depending on the minimum size of the particle that the filter can be expected to capture. So the higher the MERV rating, the more effective it is at trapping specific types of particles. So all of ours will be upgraded. And one of the things that we have to consider and that they're working on is, you know, you can't, you might think, well, why not just install the highest level filter in all of these systems? And all systems and machinery comes with manufacturer recommended filtration, and some of the older systems have motors that aren't necessarily compatible with pushing air through these smaller filters. We have been over the last 2 summers upgrading our bathrooms. So this year, I'm actually starting at the second bullet. This summer, we're working on 16 bathrooms that are being renovated. And last summer, we did about 10. And all of the new bathrooms will have touchless faucets, toilets, urinals, soap and paper towel dispensers, and touchless door opening systems. By September, all district bathrooms will have touchless soap and paper towel dispensers in all restrooms, all buildings. And in addition, we've purchased now 21 portable hand washing stations to give kids more access to soap and water. And our architects are going through, because we're also going to try to increase the number of permanent sink fixtures that we have. And those are some of the things that we're doing to keep all of the buildings safe. I'm sorry. Okay. We've been working, now moving on to our buses. We've been working with our transportation contractor, Huntington Coach, to implement health and safety protocols. So students will be required to wear masks on the buses at all times, and we will be providing Huntington Coach with a supply of masks should students present at the bus stop without a mask. We are working on low density routing. We sent a survey out today asking people if they plan to have their students ride the bus, and we are awaiting responses from that to help determine the density of routing out on our buses in the fall. Students will be trained to maintain social distancing at the bus stops and when they are boarding the bus and exiting the bus. Ventilation on the bus will be improved because Huntington Coach will be opening the windows where safety and temperatures allow, and by operating the roof hatches that have integrated exhaust fans. Huntington Coach has instituted health screenings for their employees each time they come to the dispatch office, both in the morning and afternoon. And then school bus drivers, monitors, anyone on the bus is required to wear face masks and gloves if they have any physical contact with students. Huntington Coach also has instituted bus cleaning protocols. All interior surfaces of the buses will be sprayed with a sanitizing and disinfecting product that is effective for 30 days. Additionally, as an added precaution, they are going to hit all the high contact surfaces on a daily basis. So handrails, seat corners, and they are implementing that now. Moving on to our food services and working with Aramark, our food services contractor, we anticipate a more limited meal service, food service in the fall, and our service models will be different and they will be focused more on safety. So as Adele already said, elementary and middle school students will have meals in classrooms, and the high school students will have meals in several designated locations with adequate social distancing throughout the high school. We are exploring a pre-order system and meal delivery system for the elementary and middle school classrooms, and at the high school, we're purchasing mobile carts, and those students will have grab-and-go meals from the mobile carts. And of course, we will be reinforcing hand hygiene and no sharing of food and utensils, and we'll be using those portable sinks and additional hand washing stations. Additionally, Aramark is implementing enhanced safety training for all of their workers. They have obviously established COVID mitigation protocols for PPE. They're doing their own employee health monitoring. They have increased their sanitation measures. They've always had sanitation measures in place, but they are going to be implementing those more frequently and are using hospital-grade disinfectants, and they're training their staff in health and respiratory hygiene and in social distancing while they're moving throughout the kitchen and serving areas.
I'm going to try something different with the microphone here and see if this improves things. So I'm hoping that we don't get a lot of echo, but we do. All right, so that doesn't work. So I'll just keep speaking into this and hope for the best. We already are requiring staff in the district who are working to work on a daily basis to fill out a daily health screening questionnaire. That health screening questionnaire asks us to, and I do it too, asks us to go through a list of questions, basically a list of symptoms, remind ourselves to do a self-assessment every day. Do I have any of these symptoms? Take my own temperature. My temperature is not above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm not feverish. And then, have I traveled out of state to any one of the states that are in quarantine right now? I have not. Then I certify that I haven't done any of those things that would put me at high risk. And so once I say yes, the app gives me a green screen, and I'm allowed to enter the building. So and what we anticipate is not only will staff do this on a daily basis, but students, older students, and parents for younger students will also go through this self-assessment, self-check, fever check, temperature taking every day. In addition to the temperature taking that we hope is going on at home, because we don't want a child to go to the bus stop if they have fever and temperature. We want parents to begin to give care to their children immediately. But we will also supplement that with temperature taking at the building once people arrive at the building. Again, we'll have touchless thermometers. We're working through what would be the most efficient way to get lots of students into the building quickly. Because students will be socially distanced, we don't want large numbers of students waiting outside congregating, so we want them to be able to enter the building quickly. The handheld thermometers are very quick, but the state requires us to do a little wiping protocol, even though they don't touch the body. They want us to do a little wiping protocol with every use, so that may slow down the entry. So we're working through the exact logistics of this right now. If a student does present with a fever, the nurse will isolate the student, take them to a separate place in the nurse's office, apart from the regular nurse's office for evaluation and further decisions about what to do with that child next. And the Department of Health, the CDC, both have a very step-by-step protocol to follow for when someone can return to school. And that return to school protocol is built off of whether or not there was a positive test for COVID, whether or not someone was just exposed but didn't turn positive themselves, and whether or not they've exhibited symptoms and when symptom onset occurred. So all of those things are taken into consideration in calculating the day when someone would be able to return to the school. So obviously we will follow the protocols that are given to us by the health department. As I mentioned earlier, masks and face coverings are an important safety measure. So we're going to try and maximize the use of masks. We also understand that students and staff will need mask breaks. We also recognize, obviously, that you can't eat or drink with a mask on, and we have to have the opportunity for students to do both. So we'll be working on giving people an algorithm and guidance for how to make sure students have appropriate mask breaks, but how we also make sure that we remain safe. We do have an inventory of masks. We will make masks available for anyone who arrives at school and happens to have forgotten one of their own. They can use surgical masks like the one I was wearing when I came into the room, or you can use your own cloth masks. What's important is that something is covering the mouth and the nose. It's not enough to just cover the mouth. the mask has to cover both mouth and nose. It's also important to note that face shields alone are not a substitute for masks. Too much material can go around the side of the face shield, and so the guidance says that face shields you can use them in addition to cloth and paper masks, but you cannot use them as a substitute for cloth and paper masks. Obviously, there are some parts of instruction where being able to see the entire face so that you can see how speech is being articulated, very important for students who are learning English or students who are having some assistance with developing speech. And so there are some masks that allow that. They are not as good as being live with a teacher, but they do accommodate that to some degree. As I mentioned earlier, we want the mask breaks to take place when we know that our other two protective measures are in place, our partitions and social distancing. And one of the things that we're going to think about in terms of how long a mask break might be is that the guidance from the CDC on what constitutes a close exposure is being unmasked around someone for 15 minutes or more. So if we know that no one's unmasked for more than 15 minutes, then we know that we're increasing the amount of safety. It would be something that wouldn't constitute a close contact. And I anticipate that this policy is going to evolve over time. And so I just want to make it clear that we're going to be evaluating this and reevaluating this, and our cycle time on reevaluation will be about once a month. But obviously, if something comes out from the state that we need to react to more quickly, we will certainly do that. We do understand that younger students will have more difficulty wearing masks. We were, again, in a conversation this afternoon with folks from Northwell. They were talking about some strategies for working with younger students and even working with populations that might have tactile issues and be unaccustomed to wearing masks, ways of familiarizing with masks, making them more ordinary, using them at home even though they're unnecessary to familiarize students with them, are all part of making them easier to use when they're in the school environment. Those were some of the suggestions the doctors on the call had offered to us. As I said earlier, there may be some alternate PPE. There may be alternate coverings for students who might need to be able to read lips in order to communicate. So we have a lead nurse in the school district. We will have COVID coordinators in each of the buildings, and those persons will be responsible for overseeing the protocol in the case of suspected or confirmed cases. We've talked through this with the county health commissioner. One of the things that's been impressed on me by those conversations is that it will be very hard to develop a one-size-fits-all way of approaching this because there are so many variables. Students who are at opposite ends of the classroom, even if there was a positive case in the classroom, may be evaluated differently because the amount of social distance between them is so great. It may also, the 15-minute rule is also something that's important. That will be evaluated as well. So it's the amount of contact, it's the duration of contact, it's whether that contact occurred when the mask was on, when the mask was off. All of these things go into their computation of what the right next thing is to do. And so what we anticipate will happen is a lot of consultation with our school physician, Dr. Marino, and with the county health department whenever we encounter a situation where we need some guidance. But what we do have at the building level is the summer isolation room. And so our first reaction will be to do the most conservative thing, which is to take a student that is exhibiting any symptoms that give us concern and isolate them. And that buys us time both to have the student return home, but also to begin the consultation with these agencies that are going to assist us in determining what the right next steps are. So to get into that a little bit more detail, if there was a situation where there wasn't adequate social distancing, a child might be considered a close contact, and then they would complete a 14-day quarantine period, assuming they didn't develop any symptoms of their own. If there was a known COVID case in the classroom, but distancing was reliably maintained, then the algorithm might be a little bit different. And again, we would consult with the health department on each one of these to make sure that we're applying the right rules to all of the individual and particular situations in that class. As I said, anyone who presents with symptoms, even if we have no way of testing or verifying the reason for those symptoms, we'll do the most conservative thing, which is to send the child home and then begin the process of trying to identify what might be causing the symptoms. And in that case, again, even if we're not sure that we can confirm that we know why the symptoms were presented, we'll close the classroom for cleaning and disinfection. Once a student has demonstrated sickness and is removed from the classroom, the nurse is contacted. The remaining students are also moved out of that classroom in order to, in case there is anything on surface in the classroom that allows us to clean the classroom and clean the surfaces. Students will be immediately directed to wash their hands so that if they accidentally or incidentally touch their face, there won't be anything on their hands that can be transmitted to their face. The classroom is clean and then it's disinfected with the electrostatic sprayer Dr. Rubo spoke about earlier to make sure that all of the touch points in the classroom are covered, and then a deeper cleaning will occur overnight by the custodial shift that works the each. So what's left to be done? We have to post our state-required assurance documents. That will happen on Friday. We're working on taking these slide decks and turning them into a plain language plan that we can post online that will be easy to follow and I hope more useful to parents than the state-required documents will be. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be continuing to refine this plan, and I anticipate that this plan will undergo multiple revisions before we get to September 8th. And again, with the instructional models, we're working on trying to become more granular with those instructional models, understanding that some elective classes are different from some core classes, labs are different from lectures, and that not every instructional model is appropriate for every type of curriculum or every type of lesson. And so we've had, as we mentioned on Thursday last week, a number of teachers have been engaged in lengthy curriculum writing exercises this summer. We've got 85 elementary teachers and I believe 115 secondary teachers working on that. So a large number of our teachers have been working on the instructional models so that we have a reservoir, a library of lessons and content to use if we do go virtual again or as we remain in the classroom, to make sure that we have content that works better for the online environment and we're not sort of making it on the fly like we had done back in the spring. So there's a tremendous amount of work that's been accomplished already, a tremendous amount of work ahead of us. And I would be remiss if I didn't say now what I meant to say at the very beginning, which was tomorrow night, we have the wonderful opportunity to see The Little Mermaid again. And The Little Mermaid was a one-night only performance at the high school, and we had hoped that we would somehow acquire the streaming rights for our production of The Little Mermaid. It has taken us months and months to get those streaming rights, but we've finally gotten them. And so you're going to get the chance to enjoy watching our students perform. They didn't get a chance to do all 4 performances, so they're going to get a chance to have their one performance streamed online tomorrow night. And the tickets that are sold for that performance are a fundraiser, just as the performance of The Little Mermaid itself is a fundraiser when it's done live. And so we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity and is aware of that. There's information about that both on our Facebook page and on our website. So that concludes my superintendent.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rogers. And I know that the board has questions and comments that they'd like to discuss with respect to the plan that you shared. But before we do that, we'd like to invite anyone attendance who has questions from the audience or comments from the audience to feel free to come to the podium and address the board. As is typical, please state your name and your residency or address rather, and then feel free to respond. Not sure whether to keep my mask on or. We can hear you. Not quite. My name is Luna Cohen, 6 Valley Road. First of all, I just want to thank the board, the administration, and all the staff for everything that's been done, because I
I personally am very happy about the things that we will share and the opportunities for our students. I just have some questions. I don't know if you have answers to these yet. I recognize that these are still being developed. But in terms of the high school, on the days that the students are not in the building, what is construction? Like, are they working independently? Or are they working, will there be meetings with teachers while they're remotely? And along those lines, I have a student who's starting an periodic orientation process. The student to the high school is going to be, I know that it's a tough thing in regular circumstances. I also, I have a student also in middle school, so on across the board, so it's kind of interesting. I'm curious in elementary with the co-pilot model, what that looks like, or the teachers will be switching between the two groups that they're working with, working in pairs. And yeah, and actually, I know that there's, I think there was talk about the students who are working will be fully remote and choose to be, potentially being paired with teachers who are teaching fully remotely. And I don't know if that's still the plan or the numbers work for that. But those students who are in person, for example, at the high school level, potentially have the option for taking classes that are also fully remote. That gives them more flexibility to take options, class options have if they were in person. And then my last question, I'm sorry, I have so many of them. You have to realize may not have the answers to everything. But it's just passing periods in the high school. Students are switching classes. What is that going to look like? And cleaning between that. And I'm sorry if I missed that part of it. I honestly, I was listening online and I couldn't hear. So I can hear.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions before we respond?
Hi, Alice Burke, I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Rogers, Mr. Barr, and to all the administration and staff for all of the hard work and long hours that you have been putting in over the past months. I greatly appreciate it. I know how hard and time dedication that all of the teachers, staff, and administration have put into all of this. I know it's been a long, hard road, and I know that you deeply all care about our community and our children, and I just want to say thank you so much. It really shows the presentation was really very informative. So, thank you so much.
Are there any other questions?